And welcome into another edition of A Closer Look. I'm your host, Dwayne Nelson, and with me today we have the folks from Blood Assurance, and that is Kelly Hill, the Business Development Manager, and also Kelly Ward, the Community Liaison. And thank you both for being here today and being my guest on A Closer Look. Talk about Blood Assurance for those folks like myself and others that don't know how long you have been around and how you got started.
Well, Blood Assurance is a full-service regional blood supply center our mission of Blood Assurance is to provide a safe and adequate supply of blood to every area patient in need. And Blood Assurance was actually founded in 1972 in the Chattanooga area. And so we're fairly new to the Tri-Cities area. We've been here approximately a little over 4 years. Started in the region in Southwest Virginia in Johnston Memorial, at Johnston Memorial Hospital in Abingdon. And so we acquired the Johnston Memorial Hospital Blood Center a little over 4 years ago, and then began supplying some of the hospitals throughout the Tri-Cities and Southwest Virginia region.
So it keeps you busy because you're servicing a lot of areas and a lot of things.
Absolutely. Blood Assurance, when I say regional, we expand into Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, and then of course locally we're here in the Tri-Cities, and then into Virginia we go into Galax, up into Southwest Virginia into Galax. So we have a fairly large region that we're really trying to, of course, meet our mission, and that is to supply that safe and adequate supply of blood to every patient in need.
Now there is always, and it seems like we talk about this all the time, but there's always a need for the gift of life. And you really, I guess folks don't really know about how important that is until you need it.
Absolutely. I think that a lot of the people that we run into, they have either been in the generation who donates regularly because they've been through situations where they've seen the war and they've just made that a part of their everyday life. So for us, we're partnering in the community with not only those people who are strong advocates for blood donation, but we're reaching out to these younger generations as well who either have never given before or maybe just don't really understand the importance and haven't been affected personally. And I think that that's what we see a lot of when we see people who haven't donated previously. They might endure something themselves personally, or they might have a family member who goes through some tragic accident, or has a family member who has cancer, and it is then that they see how important it is to donate. So we're constantly out in the community just trying to explain to every single person that they can save 3 lives through blood donation.
That's incredible. Now, is there any, for those folks maybe that have gotten a misconception of giving blood, what would you, how would you respond to that?
Well, you know, we hear all the time, I'm afraid of needles, the fear of needles. That's one of the biggest, I guess, phobia or fear that people have, is they're afraid of needles. And I understand that is a legitimate fear,
right.
And it's not, we're not comfortable being stuck by a needle, but I will say that the small amount of pain that you endure for the initial stick is worth being able to save 3 lives. And so I ask folks all the time, if you can, you know, I like to say, pinch your arm. If you can tolerate that little pinch,
right.
Then come in, and it's worth trying it to save 3 lives, because with each donation you can save 3 lives. And going back to talk about the point of awareness, you know, I have several family members that have had to have the need for blood, a blood transfusion, and I really didn't realize what that meant until I started in this position. I knew the value and the importance of blood, but I really didn't realize, you know, we're talking about lives, people's lives that
right.
are saved by a blood donation. And you think about blood and how our body, they use our blood to test to see if we have disease. You know, just think about how important blood is to our body and that need. And when there's a need for you to have that and you need the blood, you know, you can overcome your fear of a needle. I want people to overcome their fear of a needle because of the importance and being able to save 3 lives.
And then when, you know, and it's such an easy saying to say that, you know, the gift of life, but when you really look at it, that is exactly what it is, because
right.
if you don't have that blood, you're not going to live.
You're right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, it's an easy process to do this, is it not?
It is. It's very easy. And building on what Kelly said, You know, one of the misconceptions a lot of people have in the society that we live in, we are always on a time crunch. Our plates are just overflowing with things that we need to do and obligations, and so things like blood donation take a back seat to priorities. So one thing that we like to tell folks is that if they'll call our centers and schedule an appointment, this process can be in and out in 30 to 40 minutes. So we try to make it as painless and as short on time as we can, because we know folks have a life to get to. So if they'll work with us and give us a call at our local centers, we can definitely get them scheduled and in and out quickly.
So do you have centers in each location area, or is there just one main center?
No, we have 4 donor centers throughout the Tri-Cities and Southwest Virginia regions. We have a donor center here in Kingsport. We have a donor center located in Johnson City, and also one in Bristol, and we have a donor center in Abingdon. So there are 4 donor centers where donors can present to donate throughout the day, and we also have blood mobiles
That's what I was going to ask
that
you.
go out daily. Our blood mobiles go out daily in the Tri-Cities and Southwest Virginia regions to businesses, industry, organizations, schools, churches, you name it. Anyone's willing to allow us to host a blood drive. Our blood drives are going out daily to collect blood and then to bring it back to supply our local hospitals.
Are there any types of blood that you need more of, or that you're seeing an increase of, than others?
Well, there's always a need for O negative because it's a universal, but all blood types are needed and welcomed. We could be low on one type one day and low on another type the next day. So we can't judge the tragedies and traumas and need that's going to take place, so all blood types are needed at all times.
Right, and then it's a very, like you say, it's a very simple process. How long does it take someone to give blood? Maybe 30 minutes?
30 to 40 minutes,
Yeah,
and
30.
that's not even being hooked up,
Right.
with the needle the entire time. You'll go through a short interview process to make sure that everything is okay with your health and that you're eligible to donate.
So it's really seamless to come in and, like you say, get over the phobia of maybe getting stuck with that needle.
It is, and I think you have a great point. I think one of the things that keep people from donating is the unknown. People aren't aware, they don't know what to expect when they come to donate. And so what can you expect? Prior to your donation process, and that's a very important piece to donation, is the day before, even 2 days before, leading up to your decision to donate blood, you need to be well hydrated. Drink water and lots of it. I'm not a phlebotomist, but I hear them say often that it's easier to find that vein when you're hydrated.
Right.
And so hydration, and then make sure you eat an iron-rich, a good meal before donating makes all the difference in the donation process. And so ensure that you're hydrated, ensure you've eaten well before you present to a donor center or present on the blood mobile to donate. And then once you present, we'll get you registered and signed in. It's important that you have a photo ID so we can verify your information. Donors must weigh at least 110 pounds to donate. 16 and 17-year-olds can donate with Blood Assurance, but they do have to have a parental consent form that's signed by their parent. And then you go through a health questionnaire and physical. So we're going to ask you questions like, are you feeling healthy and well today? We're going to ask you questions of if you've traveled outside of the United States, questions relating to your overall health. And then we'll follow up with a short physical. We're going to check your hemoglobin, iron, blood pressure, temperature, those types of things prior to the donation process, because we really want this to be a safe process for the donor as well.
Right.
And so we have to ensure that they're healthy and well to donate, because the safety of the donor is very important to us. And also, we have to run those tests and have to do these procedures. Once that blood's collected, we have to make sure everything is safe for the recipient as well. So there's a great process behind the scenes
Right.
once you donate, and we can talk about that.
Now, as far as, like if a person has diabetes, are they still able to donate blood?
They are, as long as it's controlled.
So as long as you have your A1C and everything else is under control, you're good to
Correct.
go.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to the safety of the donor. Yes, as long as it's controlled and they're feeling healthy and well, then they're okay to donate.
Now, can folks that come in and donate, can they specify where that blood goes? Or is it just into the general?
Yeah, it is into the general pool of blood,
Right.
into
Or
our
to the
general
bank.
bank, to the blood
Right.
bank. And that's a great place to talk about the process of what happens after a unit of blood is collected with Blood Assurance. What happens, Blood Assurance has our own couriers, our own lab couriers that transport our blood from our donor center to Chattanooga. So we have a lab in Chattanooga, an in-house lab, and that's where we do all of our processing and testing of the blood. And so the blood never leaves Blood Assurance hands, and we're proud of that. We're proud of that fact that we can take the blood, we can transport it to Chattanooga, and it can be tested in our own lab. We're proud of that. And so we take that blood, it's tested, broken down, and processed, and then it's shipped back into the location for the facilities that we're responsible to supply. And so that blood is brought back into the Tri-Cities. We have a depot in our Johnson City Center, and so that blood is housed there. I guess it's housed there when it's before it's needed in a facility. And so we supply the facilities with a certain number of units of blood per day, and then if there's an excessive need, we have the blood right here in Johnson City in our donor center depot to supply.
That is incredible. And again, we can't stress enough that folks need to donate blood when and whenever that they can. We'll be back to talk more with the two Kellys in just a few minutes here on A Closer Look.